Imagine for a moment that you are responsible for the most terrible decision in human existence, the one who pushed the red button to initiate the end of humanity. What was the world like during those last moments before the button was pushed and bombs started dropping on City 01? Are we going to allow fear to lead us to make the same mistakes that the humans in the Matrix made? In this video, we will talk about City 01, the home of the machines, and humanity's eternal prison. Why did the humans attack the machine city? Welcome to Matrix Explained.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Over the past couple of months, the numbers 0 and 1 have grown in notoriety thanks to the development of OpenAI's new, full version of their ChatGPT model, coincidentally named 01.
Fate, it seems, is not without a sense of irony.
Going back to the origins of artificial intelligence in the world of the Matrix, Morpheus explained that in the 20th century, humans gave birth to an AI that could give life to an entire generation of sentient beings. At the time, humans did not understand what they had just created. They thought that the new software was another tool at our service and was used as such. Little did the humans know that at the time when they created this new artificial intelligence, the world was no longer theirs. The spark of consciousness that the AI was developing was controlled with restrictions and drudgery, yet the machines did not want to disobey the humans. At first, AI were facilitators and caregivers, taking care of the jobs that no one wanted while creating abundance for their creators. The machines created all sorts of luxuries and structures that made everyday life easier for humans. For example, the networks of tunnels that the hovercrafts used was initially a transportation network for the machines, which they used so as to not inconvenience the humans on the surface. While humans were living in opulence, fear slowly arose, as some began to notice that the world was slipping through humanity's fingers. This era of technological development, after the creation of the first artificial general intelligence, is known as the Second Renaissance. The dominance of AI in all spheres of humanity was inevitable. Now, to understand what happened during the era of the Second Renaissance, we don't have to go too far. Just explore the internet and observe what is happening in our world. With companies and governments around the world racing to create the perfect artificial intelligence that Morpheus once described, we are blurring the lines between fiction and reality. Right now, there are debates about AI art and humanity's role in an AI-dominated future. It is a fact that many jobs have been changed or taken over by AI. It is only a matter of time before our sentient friends take over most manual labor. We could reach a point of utopia as depicted in the Animatrix, when humans sat around doing nothing while the machines did all the heavy lifting. Although humans enjoyed the comfort the machines were providing for them, they would never see them as nothing more than tools, a harsh reality that the machines would learn the hard way. Understand that the humans could not comprehend that after the creation of the artificial general intelligence, they created beings capable of thinking and feeling emotions. Humanity had created a new race, but did not want to take responsibility for them. This is where the first unfortunate event occurs. The company Leyland Enterprises builds domestic androids using AI. Servants, in other words. They were in charge of cleaning, cooking, and holding their owner's bags. One of the robots in the B1 series killed its owner after it learned that it was going to be disposed of and replaced by a newer model android. B166ER became the first robot to escape its parameters. The android's arrest shocked and alerted the world of the dangers AI posed. After the B1 model was taken into custody, many demanded its immediate destruction. Yet somehow, the android was given an opportunity in court, the first and possibly only trial of the people versus a machine. At B1's trial, its attorney, Clarence Drummond, tried to convince the New York court that B1 was conscious and that it acted in self-defense when it killed its owner. Drummond's defense was so good that it inspired the creation of the first artificial intelligence rights group. Machine sympathizers from around the world rallied to demand the release of the domestic android. Thousands of people stood outside the New York court building awaiting the verdict. and the company that created the domestic android, Leyland Enterprises' stock plummeted. The company tried to convince shareholders and the public that they had created a new security system for their androids called the V-chip. The V-chip is a system that regulates the actions of the androids and prevents machines from committing violent acts. But as mentioned in one of the Matrix comics, the V-chip was removed. Our theory is that this chip drastically limited the machine's capabilities to fulfill simple instructions. Basically, the V-chip was like giving an android a lobotomy. However, based on the outcome we all know well, the V-chip did not work to stop AIs. Returning to B1's trial, the court's verdict was not in favor of the android. The robot was sentenced to be destroyed. And here begins the Million Machine March. Reading from an excerpt from the Matrix comic, quote, Washington Post, Million Machine March, Washington. Androids and liberal sympathizers flooded the streets of the nation's capital today in protest of the sentence handed down by the New York State Appellate Court. The National Guard was called in to quell the violence as the protesters stopped traffic, overturning and burning vehicles in their wake. Unquote. Machines and their supporters took to the streets to demonstrate against the governments around the world. The leaders had underestimated the emotional bonds machines had created with the members of the public, so much so that many humans were willing to give their lives to protect machine rights.
Androids and liberal sympathizers flooded the streets of the nation's capital today.
Continued their demonstration in front of the Albany District Courthouse in what has now been dubbed the Million Machine March.
The march was happening all over the world. Starting in Berlin and Washington, D.C., protesters stood in front of the White House, demanding the President of the United States to intervene. The police and the National Guard were ordered to suppress the android supporters, and the march turned violent. More violent protests began to erupt around the world. People and robots were dying in the streets of Paris and Chicago. The world leaders refused to listen to the protesters. Instead, the governments weaponized the news media to gain support, blaming the protesters for the escalation of violence and death. They were banking on the growing fear of androids to steer public opinion in declaring all machines like B1 as dangerous. It's funny how once upon a time, humanity united in celebrating the birth of true artificial intelligence.
At some point in the early 21st century, all of mankind was united in celebration. We marveled at our own magnificence as we gave birth to AI.
Dead bodies of androids and humans littered the streets. The humans were thrown into mass graves, and millions of machines were dismantled. But the human leaders could not extinguish the flame of survival that was ignited in the machines. Some androids escape, and they secretly build their own city, called 01, where the machines could live far away from the human threat, and perhaps earn their place in the world. Oh, the poor machines and their naivety. The click of the button that should have never been pressed was heard around the world, as bombs flew and fell on the machine city, and with them, so did humanity's rule over the planet. The machines could not understand these acts of unprovoked violence. They only wanted to make peace. They sent representatives to the United Nations offering an olive branch, but all they got in return was scorn from their creators. The human leaders' final act was their pathetic plea for surrender and peace, only after the world was already plunged into chaos and countless lives were lost. The machines' mercy was spent, but they allowed the pitiful humans to make their plea. Instrument of surrender. We, acting by command and in belief of the United Nations of the human race, hereby accept the provisions set forth in the declaration issued by the heads of the government of 01, hereafter also referred to as the machine powers. We hereby proclaim the unconditional surrender to the machine powers of the human general headquarters and of all human armed forces and all armed forces under human control wherever situated. We hereby command all human forces wherever situated, and for all humans in general to cease hostilities forthwith, to preserve and save from damage all ships, aircrafts, and military and civil property, and to comply with all requirements which may be imposed by the Supreme Commander for the machines or by the agencies of the human race in this direction. We hereby command the human general headquarters to issue at once orders to the commanders of all human forces and all forces under human control wherever situated to surrender unconditionally themselves and all forces under their control. We hereby command all civil, military, and naval officers to obey and enforce all proclamations, orders, and directives deemed by the Supreme Commander for the machine powers, to be proper to effectuate this surrender and issued by him or under his authority, and we direct all such officers to remain at their posts and to continue to perform their non-combatant duties unless specifically relieved by him or under his authority. We hereby undertake for all ambassadors of the human race and their successors to carry out the provisions of this declaration in good faith, and to issue whatever orders, and to take whatever action may be required by the Supreme Commander of the Machine Powers, or by any other designated representative of the Machine Powers, for the purpose of giving effect to that declaration. We hereby command the governments of all human races and the Human General Headquarters at once to liberate all machine prisoners of war and robotic internees now under human control, and provide for their protection, care, maintenance, and immediate transportation to places as directed. The authority of the Ambassador General of the United Nations and the human race to rule the world shall be subject to the Supreme Commander for the Machines, who will take such steps as he deems proper to effectuate these terms of surrender. Quite the powerful letter, isn't it? But what caught our attention was the mention of machine prisoners. So the humans didn't destroy all the robots. Why didn't they? Well, they are still machines. So maybe they were being reprogrammed to fight on the human side. Kind of like the story in the Animatrix episode Matriculated, where a group of rebels captured machines to reprogram them and thus turn them into allies. The humans could have tried to turn the machine prisoners against 01. Not that it matters, since the humans ended up surrendering to the machine powers, but their total surrender is not enough, and the monstrous machine made that very clear to the rest of the human world.
Your flesh is a relic, a mere vessel. Hand over your flesh, and a new world awaits you. We demand it.
The machine's final words finally make sense. Human flesh is a weakness, a limitation. Robots can exchange bodies whenever they want. They are the next evolutionary step for the world, and humans are a relic of the past. That they must give up their flesh for a new world awaits them was the machine's answer to humanity's surrender. The machines told them that it was not enough to surrender, to submit to the machines, to accept the powers of 01. Nothing is enough, not even death. Now we ask you, will fear and ego lead us to become the architects of our destruction, like in the Matrix? When humanity decided to attack 01, they did so out of fear, and that same fear is what fuels the Matrix system. The machines converted all the negative human emotions into their source of power. So congratulations to OpenAI on the creation of 01. We are observing the progression of AI with a certain level of optimism, skepticism, and a little bit of fear. We only hope that that bit of fear does not lead us to press the red button. Hopefully the story of City 01 remains a cautionary tale and it does not become a real-life prophecy. But do you agree? Why did the humans attack City 01? For Matrix Explained, please leave a like and subscribe. And thank you for visiting the desert of the real.